And we're back. Welcome back to the Auto Authorities Podcast. I'm Jay. This is Gerald coming to you live. We are talking about the first quarter results are in, and boy, oh boy, are we going to report the changes, and they may shock you. Just a little teaser there. But anyway, before we get going, I want to thank our sponsors, iAutoAgent.com. If you're looking to sell your car and you don't want to go to the dealership or do it yourself, iAutoAgent will do it for you. If you want to buy a vehicle nationwide, you don't want to do it yourself, iAutoAgent will do it for you. If you have a fleet of vehicles and you are a business owner, they have a done for you fleet management program, and that will take care of the buying of the fleet vehicles, take care of the maintaining of the fleet vehicles at the place of business. And that does not eat up prime time, and also selling those vehicles for maximum profit. If you're looking for an extended warranty, we can see if you qualify for one. Just go to the AutoAuthorities.com, give us your VIN and miles and your information. And if you are just tuning in and you want to watch us live, we go live on the Facebook group page at 12 p.m. Tuesdays, as well as LinkedIn. We are on TV now. We are on Biz TV Plus and Shop TV Plus on your smart TV. And we also are on 19 other different channels, including YouTube. Subscribe to the Auto Authorities on YouTube, and then go to the Auto Authorities, and you can watch us on iTunes. And man almighty, we're on a lot of different channels. And I'd like to introduce you to Gerald Bentley with Wrestling Spotlight.
Yeah, and on a lot of those same platforms. You can also see it on YouTube. We put some of the best from the channel on there. 24/7 Pro Wrestling channel features some of the top independent promotions in the country, Central States from Kansas City. We're going to get mid-states from the Big 12 country on. Home promotion of the Space Cowboy, Jason Jones. He's going to be on there. We got Glory Pro from St. Louis, Chicago style, Brew City from Milwaukee. Lots of pro wrestling promotions and weekly interviews, and also panel discussions with some pro wrestling journalists from around the country. Getting geared up to go to London, Jay, to cover AEW's All In live, following up on covering WrestleMania and AEW Dynasty live on the channel. So really building up a great source to watch and stay up to date on some of the stars that you'll be seeing tomorrow or in years ahead in the WWE and AEW.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, first quarter results are in the automotive industry, and quite shocking.
Yeah, I mean things are bouncing back fairly fast. It may seem like things still aren't back to normal, but you had first quarter sales in the U.S. go up 5.1%, and that's despite near record high prices and despite higher interest rates than we've seen in 15, 20 years. You have to go back to what, 05 to have rates that were about where we are now. And it's kind of been across the board increase. 3.8 million new cars sold in the first quarter this year. That's an increase, significant increase of 5%. I'm now pacing at 15.4 million vehicles to sell this year. I'm sure they'd like to see that tick up a bit, but it's going to take a while because you got to get that production geared up. And, I don't think most people would have predicted that, because we've been hearing all the doom and gloom. Oh my God, the rates are too high. The prices are too high. We're not going to be able to go. It's not going to sell. And you know what? The U.S. auto industry keeps clicking along.
Yeah, it's crazy. The resilient consumer is still purchasing stuff. And, when it comes to rates and stuff, they're not really going to be doing anything with them, it sounds like.
No, because that inflation number, we're getting into a little macroeconomic talk, but, the core inflation number is still hanging right around 3%. The good thing, though, and I think what really is being underreported, is that incomes have been rising above the rate of inflation. So really, if you look at the net inflation number, it's negative.
That's
I know people don't want to hear that. They hear, oh God, the inflation, it's so high, it's so high. Well, hey, guess what? You're getting paid more. You're doing okay. There's a little bit of a cognitive dissonance. Everybody's complaining about inflation, but hey, that increase in pay, man, I earned it. They go together.
Yeah, and the more and more the Fed just keeps sitting there without moving these rates is definitely affecting people from going to buy vehicles. What else are you seeing in the first quarter results?
Well, prices are ticking down slightly. We did hit at one point, I believe we hit a high during the COVID fueled shortage of about $47,000 per new car. The end of the first quarter, the new car average was down to 44,186,
Wow.
dropped 3.6% from last year. So the prices are ticking down. Now they went way up,
Yeah.
so they're coming down. They're coming down slowly, but 44,186, and it's showing that there's a little bit more negotiation coming into the market.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that coincided with the prices coming down, the average discounts on a new car were up 66% to $2,800 per car on average. That's being fueled by the leases too, because a lot of leases have their subvented leases. The manufacturers are setting that lease to a price that they want to move some cars. They're picking and choosing the cars they want to push.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see those lease payments advertised dropping, that tells you they're really trying to push them. And leases equaled out to 25% of new car transactions for the quarter. That's up 5% from the previous year because leases basically disappeared because the companies weren't getting involved in it. They weren't pegging the market and they were just unaffordable. The
Right.
old rule, the standard rule, if you look at a car and the dealer shows you 72-month payment, 36-month lease. If the 36-month lease isn't less than the 72-month payment, you do the 72-month payment. 36-month lease is less, you do the lease because you do give up a little bit, right? You lease the car, you're committing that you're going to be making payments longer because you're going to take that lease and you're probably going to roll it to another lease or another buy. You buy the car, you may well keep that car for 6, 7, 8, 9 years. You're not doing that with the lease, probably. You're leasing it 3 years, you're kicking it back, and you're getting another one. But if you're saving money on a monthly basis, it can really add up. Because think about it. If you look at say you're looking at here, we talked about earlier, Cadillac Lyriq, the EV Cadillac that's releasing right now, 1,500 down, about 550 a month. And you're looking at, well, let's say another GM product, a Traverse, an LT Traverse. Well, your LT Traverse, your 72-month payment is going to be about $750 a month at a special rate. Cadillac Lyriq, 550. Let's say you put zero down. You do nothing down. You're 570. So 750 versus 570, that's 180 bucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good amount of money in your pocket over 36 months. I mean, you're talking about pocketing $6,480 over the course of 3 years. You got to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you lease if the payment's lower than the 72-month payment. Because when you're talking small numbers, talking to monthly, it doesn't seem like that much, right? Yeah, 180. Yeah, that's fine. I can do it. $6,400 over 3 years. That's pretty good.
No kidding. So, like, as far as GM goes, they got hit though. As far as you know, they're not making as much money.
Not making as much money, but they did have a profitable quarter, and they are. I got to give them credit. They're adapting to the market because what's another thing that we've talked about a lot over the last couple of years that those affordable cars just aren't there.
Right.
Where are those customers going? Well, GM found some of them. They sold 37,588 Tracks, their entry-level car.
Mm-hmm.
When I was at GM, when I was a lead manager at a big GM dealership, the GM rep told me, "Hey, the Trax is going to be your new volume car." Well, they finally did it. 37,588 Trax sold in the quarter. That is a increase of 5 times from the previous model.
Oh, wow.
So they actually have a car that America likes, and besides it being a nice enough vehicle for $22,000, you get a decent amount of car. It's $22,000. It's 21,500 base MSRP. They sold more Tracks than the entire Cadillac brand sold in the first quarter.
Wow.
So I think that's a sign of things to come, because car dealerships, car manufacturers, they're a copycat business, just like everything else.
Yeah.
Companies see success that Chevy's having with the Trax and Buick's having with the Invista, which is the sister vehicle of the Trax. They're going to copy it, and they're going to have something to come out in its stead. And every brand is going to have something to offer in that price range, because it's a huge hole in the market right now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Prices are way, way too much money. Yeah.
Yep.
I
So
mean,
it'll bounce back. It's going to ebb and flow. Always does.
yeah, I'd be curious to see, what our listeners, like, if they're running into, the issues. I mean, like, it's interesting to look at the first quarter results. I wonder, if, you guys are running into issues as far as buying vehicles. Um, are you holding on to your vehicle? Like, what's your mindset right now? I'd be curious to see everybody's comments on that, because
Yeah.
tells us where the world is right now, where our heads are, because I think a lot of people are holding on to their vehicles. I mean, we're seeing on our side a massive decline in inventory
Mm-hmm.
available. And when we market to our clients, we have over 3,000 clients that we're marketing to, you know, they're holding on to their vehicles. They really are. And that's actually where extended warranties come in really well, is
Yeah.
people want to get warranties because they want to protect their investment. And it's a huge, huge investment. What else you got, Gerald, as far as first quarter results?
Well, I think you're going to see more and more of that, and you are right. I mean, people are holding on to their cars, because I took here. It's just a random sample, but I took a look at the auction run list for Odessa auction in Kansas City and Manheim Auto Auction
Mm.
for a 2-week period, and almost without exception, the only vehicles that ran at auction with under 100,000 miles were Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram repos. So what's that saying is, the cars aren't even making it to the auction. If a dealership takes it in and it's under 100,000 miles, they're keeping it, because you can't replace it.
Mm-mm.
And I don't care what you do. There's no way to sell 100 used cars if you only have 50.
Right.
And that's always been the market, right? If you're a big size dealer, you want to sell 100 used cars. Well, you can't buy cars. You're not going to go buy a car with 100,000 miles. That's insane. You may as well, if you get it in, it's good enough, you can trade for it. Well, I can run it through service. We'll make a little bit of money on the service. We'll sell it. We'll move it, make $100 and move on, which would tend to tie into the national trends, because most dealers are showing they're making about $100, $200 to throw on used cars. So if you're a customer and you're going to a dealership and you're still thinking it's 2010, and that dealership has their used cars marked up $5,000, and you just go offer $5,000 off the used car just at the start, no rhyme or reason, you're going to have a very long and disappointing day. Because I think what you'll find is the vast majority of used cars are marked up maybe $800, maybe $1,000, because it's costing the dealership so much more to get those cars ready.
Right. And that's the key, that I think, right, what you just said right there, is that the dealerships have a lot more costs involved. So maybe they take the vehicle in for 10 grand and they're selling it for 14 or 15,
Hmm.
but their costs to get it going, and by the time they do all their hoopla to it, whatever, it's showing on paper that they own the thing for 14.5 or 14.3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then here, let's look at a few other ones. Not surprisingly, low price cars really did well in the first quarter. Nissan perpetually been struggling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they may be turning the corner at least a little bit because the Versa and the Sentra,
Mm-hmm.
they had really good results to start the year. The Versa, which is the single least expensive new car in the market right now in America, they start at 17,500. You're starting MSRP. They had a 92% increase quarter one versus quarter four.
What does that tell you?
The Sentra, which starts at 22,030,
Mm-hmm.
they sold 40,081 of those, a 78% increase versus Q1 of 2023.
What does that tell you? It tells you that the consumer does not want to pay big money for vehicles. So they're going to
Yeah,
search out
want affordable cars.
yep, they're going to search out everything they possibly can to find that affordable car. It doesn't matter what brand it is. And it just happens to be Nissan because they're less expensive.
Yep. Uh, how about the fastest growing vehicle for Ford quarter one? You've seen a lot of these driving around, I'm sure. The Ford Maverick. The
Oh,
Maverick,
yeah.
we talked about it a couple weeks ago, bringing that name back. The
Yep.
name has nothing to do with what the Maverick used to be. The new Maverick is basically the old Ranger,
Yes.
but the new Maverick killed it in quarter one. They
Oh,
sold 39,061. That's an increase of 82% versus last year. And last year was a 27% increase versus 22. So
that's
they're
amazing.
rolling on it. They're pacing to sell well over 100,000 of those. That's going to make it Ford's fourth best selling vehicle out of their lineup. And it is surging ahead of what the F 150 is doing in terms of growth. The F 150 actually was down.
I believe it.
Yeah, because, they're really expensive. So I think you're seeing things that are going to start falling into place now because you're going to see things start coming into line. Eventually, that market force is going to pull those prices down, and it's really starting to happen.
I see Mavericks everywhere now, and it's such a. I mean, what's the MSRP on a Maverick? Roughly 40
You
grand.
can get one. Yeah. Well, very well equipped at 40. You can
Yeah,
get them in the mid 30s. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, and that's why. So even some of our fleet companies, they were looking into getting Mavericks because you can get them the hybrid, and that's better gas mileage and everything. So
Hmm.
that's it's going to be very interesting. I would make a prediction that the Maverick might be either possibly the second best selling Ford pretty soon.
It could be. It could pass up the Escape
I think it could.
because you do get a little bit more. You get the truck bed. You can put a tonneau
Yeah.
cover on
Right.
it, and yeah.
Yeah. Especially with fleets too, right now, they're looking for that affordable option. I mean, just to get a work truck is just a full size work truck. Plain Jane is ridiculously expensive. I mean, it's just insane.
Yeah, well, and if you don't need, your local plumber or your local electrician, they don't need to tow 10,000 pounds. They'd
No,
be just fine with the Maverick.
yeah.
And
Well,
now let's not bury Ford too much because some of the other first quarter results, Ford did grow 6.8%. So I don't think they were really losing sales, but I think if we dig into the numbers a lot, you may well see just what we were talking about, that some of those F-150 sales went to Rangers or went to Mavericks,
mm,
which from Ford's perspective, fine.
Right.
I don't think they're going to be too upset about that if they're just losing them to within their own brand.
Yeah. Oh, makes sense. Well, this is great. I hope everybody really got a lot of value into this episode. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave comments below. Um, Anything else, Gerald?
Just here, we'll end it with one more note for Ford. Their hybrid sales were also up dramatically, 42% across the company. And the hybrid Maverick, which that thing is going to be popular,
Oh yeah.
77%
Oh yeah,
increase.
dude. You can't even get them. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody. We will see you next week. Peace.